Hey guys, we have one strand left that we haven't gone through in medical forensics. It's this one, and yet we did bits and pieces of it as we've gone throughout the year. So, and the fact that you've all had to take science classes, we're going to kind of go over this rapidly. And then from there, we're going to do a review. There will be some kind of a final review next time. And then we're going to do test the time after that. And then from there, I think we're going to do murder stories for the rest of the time. That will be super relaxed and chill because we wrapped up. Here comes Strand 2 at you today. So PPE, that was the first standard in this. So this is all basically scientific method slash how do you act in a lab slash what do you wear in a lab, that kind of stuff. So boy, do we know PPE because we're living in a corona world. So here is a picture of a lot of different PPE that you can use. And if you picture an autopsy, for example, there is no way on this planet that you're going to want to go into that with a deceased body and start to cut and not have some kind of protection there. So PPE stands for personal protective equipment. And there is a sequence that you should put it on. I have that in the next slide. So donning your PPE, that means putting it on. I think it's from a British site, so they're donning and doffing. I don't know what doffing is, but I'm thinking it's taking it off. So it's probably a word, though. I've just never heard it. So we want to minimize germs. That's the strategy. And we want to make sure that at the sequence that we take it off, if we touch blood and guts here, we don't want to take gloves off and then have blood and guts here that we still have to deal with. So there is a way to go. Do this first, then this first, then that first. And apparently I messed that picture up pretty hard. Yeah, we'll just go all over. So you start with hand hygiene. And if you've ever seen surgeons, they have sinks where they actually have a pedal on the floor. So they're not touching anything. Pedal on the floor, scrub up. They scrub all the way to the elbows. And then they're going to go first. So they've scrubbed up, then the gown, then the respiratory protection. Then we're going to go to the goggles. Oh my goodness, I'm real click happy today. Then we're going to go to the eye protection, and then we're going to go to the gloves. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It goes wash up, gown up, respiratory mask, glasses, and then gloves. And we're going to do it the reverse order for taking it off. And it all has to do with, like, if you're soiled on your PPE, we have to do it in a sequence that you're protected and that you don't cross-contaminate a forensic scene. So there you go. Okay, standard 2 then, that was basically standard 1 with PPE. And one thing that we did that was a required skill for this class, remember I put what did we use? I can't remember. We usually use shaving cream for this activity, but we put shaving cream on, rubbed it all over, and we pretended that was like poop and urine or something disgusting, and you had to take the glove off. The trick is to pinch it and then pull this one off. So this is still a gloved hand, and then take this one, go underneath it. I usually use my favorite phalange, the middle finger, and then just pull it up like this. You're underneath the protective equipment and then pull it off. And you guys had to do that, so I'm sure you remember. Okay, appropriate behavior in the lab. So this one says, so these are the standards, basically, or the objectives within the standard 2. So explain the danger of evidence contamination through food, drink, cosmetics, lotion, eye drops, and contact lenses. So how could that interfere with especially cross-contamination, because we're dealing in forensic science. So if we have these doofuses all in our lab and maybe some crime scene evidence, that could mess up our whole case. So no, Will and Savannah and Evan, idiots. And then follow proper disposal and cleanup procedures with respect to chemicals and lab equipment. So our lab experience this year, we dissected the pigs, we dissected brains, And there's a proper place to put this, basically the soiled metal things, where we had to clean those off separate, keep them completely separate. You can't have sharps in a plastic container, because if the custodian has to come through and they get cut on it, boy, that's just no good, is it? So you should know how to wash your hands. 20 seconds. They've done songs about it, so you should know how to wash your hands. Since, yeah, all of us should know all about PPE and washing hands for now. In the assignment, you're going to look at this poster, and I want you to pick out all the things you see wrong with it, because you guys have been doing science for a long time. You should know that you don't put scissors in an outlet. Duh. Okay. And then it says, use the equipment correctly and safely. And it says, use properly these different things. And I've put a picture in so you can see a bunch of the different equipment. So we didn't use a lot of it, but the stuff we did, the micro pipette, here's a pipette, but we used it for the blood spatter. So in that case, we weren't using actual biological material. We were using vampire blood. I'm sure that was real. Okay, a centrifuge, we didn't have access to that, but obviously you would want to pay very close attention. I'm seeing if there's a centrifuge over here. To your samples, making sure everything's closed the right way so you're not ruining the samples. So all of these types of equipment have different uses. I think what I might do for this is I'm going to have you pick out 5 of the things that you're like, I don't know what that is and what that does. And I just want you to list them out and just go, okay, it does this. Okay, so use equipment correctly and safely. Duh. Okay, and then follow lab procedures. So in every lab, and I just grabbed one off of the internet, a rubber band lab. I'm not exactly sure. Oh, they're measuring the elastic energy of a rubber band. So the teacher would have had to go, this is how you're going to do this. Step 1, you do this. And step 2, you do this. And step 3. And in a science lab, a lot of science teachers will do this to you just because they say, read the entire lab first. That's the rule, is you read the entire procedure first, because sometimes a part of the procedure could be a little bit confusing if you don't understand the context. Read through the whole thing, and science teachers are infamous for this. They'll go, here's the procedure, da 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 da, and then they'll put in the second to the last line or whatever, they'll be like, if you read this all the way through, you don't have to do anything, just sign your name or something like that, because you're supposed to read it through. Read through the procedure and just follow it the way it is outlined. You teachers take a great deal of time to ensure your safety and the safety of the equipment. And so if they've taken the time to write stuff down, could you read it? Because it's just, top to bottom, left to right. It's really not a big deal. Just follow the steps accurately and in sequence. So, duh. Finally, maintaining a lab manual. This is really important in forensic science. And the reason why is because we need to document any lab work that's done. We need to use steps from the scientific method. Unfortunately, in today's world, if someone commits a crime, like the whole, it seems like everyone that knows about it has an opinion about who's guilty and who's not. Fact remains that people are innocent until proven guilty, and you have that right, and I have that right, and it's absolutely something that should not go away. So to protect evidence and to protect innocent victims and to ensure that we're putting away the right people, we need to follow the scientific method. We need to be meticulous in our note taking and making sure that if we have taken some crime scene samples, that we have actually documented whose hands have touched this. And we also document how we test different things, how much of the sample was used. It really is a meticulous process. And if you skip a step, you could either end up with, worst case scenario, I think, is when you throw an innocent person in jail for an undisclosed amount of time who didn't deserve it. This is as close to, I better knock on wood, this is as close to jail as I've ever been. and I don't like it. So I can imagine, like, if I didn't do anything and I had to sit in a cell and then have scary big ladies, you know, I don't know. I just don't want to go. I don't want to go to jail. So, yeah, let's make sure we're getting the right people. We're doing the right science. We're listening to scientists. Duh. And we just base it all in basically the scientific method and document, document, document. Medicine is document everything. Forensic science, document everything. Okay, standard 6. Demonstrate the proper handling of chemicals. So they color code these. They do it based on what type of hazard they are. And they also have within this should be located in every science lab. You'll see a couple of things that are meant to ensure your safety. So one is you're going to have hazardous materials, how they're classified. They need to be stored different ways, and some of them can't be stored together. You also are going to have a shower station in a science lab. So there is one in our science lab where if you got the chemicals on and it doesn't react with water, because there are chemicals that you don't want to just be like splash, because that could make it worse. We can get it out. Or if you get chemicals in your eye, there's typically an eye wash station. Basically, all I'm going to say about standard 6 is, first of all, know what the chemical can do. Okay, so if you're in a science lab and you're handling chemicals, you need to understand what the hazard is. And you need to comply with all of the labeling, and you need to comply with all of the storage regulations to ensure the safety of you and everyone that's in the lab. So just handling chemicals in a way that's responsible. Okay, so that's it. That's standard 2. And one of the skills, like I said, is to take off the gloves. If we had more protective equipment, we could go through that sequence. Just remember the sequence to put it on and off. And okay, so next time is all about reviewing. I'm going to have a pretty killer Quizlet available, and then we're going to do a final test in medical forensics. I feel like you're all ready to go find that dead body in the woods and figure it out. So see you next time.